I'm a fashion person, first of all, and I love fashion. But the 2000 fashion, the early 2000 fashion, is one of my favorite fashions in the world. Like, it goes 2000s number one, and then 1980s, specifically 1987. That shit is hard. But for the 2000s, we got 2002 to 2005. That got the best era. Baggy shit. You got the weirdo pants, the do-rags. You had your Lil Waynes, the DJ Drama mixtapes and all that shit. But would we survive the 2000 fashion trends if it was in today's world? In my opinion, hell no. But let's see if this nigga over here can tell us a little bit about it. All right.
If you remember low-rise jeans, juicy couture tracksuits, oversized jerseys, bedazzling everything, skinny jeans, trucker caps, character-themed merch, and a dozen other trends, then you were there for most, or at least a good chunk, of the many fashion eras of the 2000s. And looking back now, it's kind of hard to explain just how intense that period actually was. Today's fashion moves fast, but it's optional. You can ignore trends, mix eras, wear basics, thrift, repeat outfits, or sit out entirely and no one will care. Comfort is allowed, personal style is a thing, and you don't have to overhaul your entire wardrobe every time something new comes up.
Facts.
That wasn't how it worked back then. In the 2000s, once something was in, it was in. Your favorite brand, celebrity, music video, or TV show decided what you were supposed to look like that month, and you were expected to follow along. There was no slow rollout, and if you didn't adapt, you didn't just look different, you looked wrong. Heck, even if you wanted to rebel, there was a set look for the nonconformist of every era. These trends didn't fade in gradually either. They arrived.
You had your skateboarders, you had your cool people, you had your emos, you had your people that played the bangos. You know, come on now.
Overnight, took over completely and vanished just as fast. Early on, people were trying to look like the future, characters straight out of Final Fantasy X. Then everything flipped. Oversized jerseys, huge sunglasses, chunky shoes, clothes dragging across the floor. Not long after that, skinny jeans took over, so tight that sitting down took preparation. Shirts were either way too big or barely there at all, and somehow both were considered normal. Everyone shopped at the same stores, copied the same celebrities, and wore almost identical outfits. And if you couldn't keep up, you looked outdated. Compared to now, it's easy to forget how little choice there actually was at the same time as there being too much. The 2000s didn't really leave room for personal comfort or long-term taste. You wore what was in or you got left behind. So let's look back at this era of fast fashion and what led to its downfall. Oh, and if you enjoy these cultural lookbacks, feel free to like and subscribe.
Okay, I don't like those type of fashion.
Now let's get back to the video right after.
No shade of Paris Hilton.
Fast fashion,
you know, she's
and what
the
led
GOAT,
to it. That's what we do here.
But
now
like,
let's get
this type of fashion from back in the day, it's like too tight. Like, come on, why you wearing your shirt like that? You know, no hate to the girls back then. I used to wear that, but like, I'm just used to the baggy shit now. You know, I don't know. It's just my taste of clothes.
Back to the video right after this.
Is that Daft Punk? Bro, who is that? Who's that? Britney Spears? Oh, that's what?
The early to mid 2000s are looked at as such a fun time for two reasons.
Facts.
The first is post-90s futuristic optimism, which resulted in aesthetics like Frutiger Aero, Y2K futurism, and chromecore. The second is pre-recession excess. This is one of the reasons that the era is looked at so grandly when it comes to consumerism. We were coming off of a strong economic period in the 90s that didn't last throughout the 2000s, but was bright enough to rub off on the era's earliest vibes and looks. This and the rise of mainstream media via constant magazines, TV, radio, and everything else led to a new world of fashion. One where the celebrities started to truly become style gods due to how much we were being exposed to them through both that mainstream media and the growth of internet sites based on covering them as much as possible. Especially for women, this meant constantly being updated on what Beyonce, Aaliyah, Paris Hilton, Britney Spears, Avril Lavigne, or whoever else your girl was wearing or collabing with.
Facts.
Such a landscape would make this era one heavy on
now we have people like Playboy Cardi and King Carson dress all black YVL stuff. We need updates on them niggas so we know what to dress next. Like, come on now. Like, what the hell Travis is gonna dress next? In the tutu?
Business model known as fast fashion. While the 2000s wouldn't be the originating period of such a term, with it beginning technically in the 30s during World War II, due to the United States shifting to a mass-produced and more accessible clothing, and the term being coined in the 90s, it would be the era it became what we truly know it as, and when it would be recognized as a problem. The fast fashion model is when big trends and designs are mass-produced and quickly brought to retail chains at a low cost as soon as they pop off while the demand is high. This gets people going out to buy popular wear as soon as possible.
Is that Hilary Duff?
But at the same time, that wear wears out just as fast, creating a cycle of buying, trashing, and repeating. In the early to mid 2000s, this was the model for companies everywhere, leading to tons of recreations of high fashion made into low-cost streetwear. Since 1999, stores like Macy's, Kohl's, Target, Uniqlo, H&M, Forever 21, and more have profited from being the faces of fast fashion. With so many choices, overconsumption quickly became an issue, especially because 2000s fast fashion had planned obsolescence baked into each clothing item. This only adds to the issues caused by the model, such as cheap labor, extortion, and negative environmental impact. All of that created an environment where trends didn't just change, they expired. Clothes were made to be worn hard, shown off immediately, and replaced as soon as something new took over. Style wasn't built to last because the moment never did. And that's why the 2000s didn't really have one look. Each stretch of the decade had its own rules and its own idea of what looked right at the time. What was everywhere in one year could feel completely unwearable in just a few years or even months later. So to really understand 2000s fashion, you have to break it down era by era. The early 2000s, otherwise known as the Y2K era, was dominated by looks that were future forward. Inspired by optimistic visions of what a tech-based world would eventually look like. For men, this meant blacks and silvers, metallic patterns, tracksuits, leathers, and chunky shoes. It also included light grays, blues, and whites. Of course, it didn't just end at future looks for men in the early 2000s. Surfer Boy summer looks were huge for guys at the time, thanks to bands like Sugar Ray and other acts of the era. Frosted tips, wraparound sunglasses, baggy shorts, the works. And who could forget the hip-hop and urban-styled looks of the period? Literally everything was bright, clean, and oversized. The pants, the jerseys, the hats. Everyone just looked so cool. This style was heavy on brands like Jordans, NBA, Fubu, Sean John, and Rocawear, as Y2K was all about brand icons making you into your own icon. This look would coincide with the nerd media and other rebellious icons such as anime, rock, and wrestling to create the attitude fashion style, which was somewhat of a middle finger to set trends that became a trend in itself. It was the 2000s take on punks, full of spiky hair, frosted tips, shiny clothing, neons, like tech wear, extreme sportswear like skater looks, and more borrowed over from the hip hop and urban styles. Oh, and there was Polo. Lots of Polo, a brand that would go in and out of style constantly throughout the entirety of the 2000s.
Easter Polo. Damn. Summertime Polo. Olympic Polo. Braid. Man, what the f***? That ain't even it.
But after 9/11, American fashion lost the futuristic optimism it once had and changed aesthetics from 2002 to the mid-2000s. Now the look would become all types of denim, such as ripped and frosted jeans.
I was just having a talk with my girlfriend yesterday, with my wife, about dogs yesterday. Of why am I so scared of dogs?
Lost the futuristic
Babe, if you watching this,
optimism it once had and changed aesthetics from 2002 to the mid-2000s. Now the look would become all types of denim, such as ripped and frosted jeans. However, tracksuit look would become all types of denim, such as ripped and frosted jeans. 2000s. Now the look would become all types of denim, such as ripped and frosted jeans. However, now the look would become all types of denim, such as ripped and frosted jeans. However, now the look would become all types of denim, such as ripped and frosted jeans. However, tracksuits, polos, puffer jackets, cargo pants, and other fashions present would continue to be part of the zeitgeist and for the most part would stick around to the late 2000s. These all along with aviator shades and trucker hats, as well as the big brand sneakers like Nike, Adidas, and Puma, had staying power, making it easy for men to not have to go crazy with chasing trends for a bit. Like now, fashion for men was a lot easier than it was for women. Y2K and a lot of the 2000s fashion trends for women were an exclusive club. You were either skinny or you weren't in. While men were expected to express future positivity by wearing baggy clothes, shiny colors, and cool leathers, women were expected to expose skin, have sex appeal, be thin, and wear branded everything.
And now everybody wants thick thighs and big fake booties now, like, bruh.
I won't lie. I was and I still am a fiend for the low-rise jeans with the visible thong, but I won't act like this wasn't a big issue of the era. And it was reflected with nearly every style women had during this period. Much like men's fashion, Y2K women's fashion was inspired by tech. Remember all those groups like Destiny's Child, TLC, and the Pussycat Dolls? Those outfits are the epitome of this approach, using metallics and a lot of shine and more belts and straps than a Nomura designed Final Fantasy character, to bring the future to the present. Along with this was the previously mentioned low-rise jeans, huge sunglasses, and tracksuits, with the brand Juicy Couture having those years in a chokehold. This was all made popular through celebrities appearing in such outfits at red carpet events and music videos and magazines. But it didn't end there. Women's fashion would also include mesh, handkerchief, and butterfly tops, a bunch of different styles of skirts, rhinestones on everything, band t-shirts.
Bruh, this is exactly why I like the early 2000s. They just came up with anything. Like, you could just make a freaking scarf out of a towel.
I'm sure you had an iconic brand logo on your purse, aka the bag tax, which was made extra popular thanks to Sex and the City, a show that inspired a new style of 2000s women wear.
For a bag?
It's not a bag. It's a Birkin.
All that revealing clothing would lose relevance post 9/11, as conservatism would have a resurgence in women's fashion. This resulted in an early 80s revival, yeah, they did it first, and a more layered focused style. However, the next eras would see some of these vanish or evolve, while other dead trends would actually return again. The mid-2000s were an odd time for fashion thanks to the media that took over the era. At the same time as more rebellious media would take to the mainstream, such as Linkin Park and other rock groups, Toonami and anime, which was popular enough but still low-key enough to be niche and punkish, and edgy games with aesthetics like Shadow the Hedgehog.
Where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald?
The nation would be introduced to the preppy aesthetic thanks to films like Mean Girls, Gossip Girl, and everyone's favorite brand, Abercrombie and Finch, who told everyone that they needed 2 undershirts and 2 polos at the same time. This, partnered with the 1960s fashion revival, made the era a mixed mash of styles for men and women. Women would test new conservative styles and continue to wear jeans with everything, such as layering dresses with pants and graphic tees with long sleeves worn underneath. There was a lot of Disney Channel style going on, if you know what I mean. Low-rise jeans and tracksuits would also make a comeback, along with the intro to new fashion statements in yoga pants, tube tops, cargo pants with thongs showing, Ugg boots, and so much more.
And
remember the invasion of trucker hats, Chuck Converse, Keds, and Sperry's? I'm telling you, the mid-2000s were all over the place. Men were a lot more simple with there being 4 or 5 lanes. You had those that embraced the retro, dressing in outfits inspired by old music and movie revivals in cargo, classic rock tees, aviators, Adidas, hoodies, and parkas.
What is this nigga doing?
Those that wanted to look smart and
holler.
businessy in dress shirts and cardigans. The nerds that also embraced the cargos but added their own flair with graphic t-shirts. And the guys caught in the prep style that wore polo everything, typically partnered with their own special pop to it, like trucker hats, bling, or retro shoes.
Kanye
The thing that had everyone in a chokehold was skinny jeans. And that chokehold was literal because everyone's legs were being squeezed and every man's balls were being strangled on a regular basis come 2006.
Called skinny jeans. Kind of in right now.
But come the late 2000s during the recession, all this excess would go away. Men and women would embrace less consumption and thrifting would become a mainstream way of getting clothing. This didn't only result in the secondhand market becoming oversaturated and more expensive, but would result in new mashed up styles such as mixing up the late 2000s, 50s, and 80s looks together. Men brought back leather and Letterman jackets, Hawaiian shirts, which had me bad, flannels, and a lot of crazy combos that took a lot from rave culture. Women would have their second 80s revival along with other styles featuring neons, animal print headbands, slap bracelets, ballet flats, ripped skinny jeans.
What y'all know about the slap bracelets, bro? That just brought back
pants, Nike tip-on shorts, and oh lord, sundresses. And a lot more.
Go crazy.
Yeah, the recession really had everyone going back to the well or throwing stuff together and seeing what worked. But as fun and chaotic as all this was, the speed, excess, and constant turnover made it completely unsustainable, both financially and culturally. Till now, 2000s fast fashion was moving like money was infinite, but that recession reminded everyone that it wasn't. By the time the late 2000s rolled around, the system that fueled all that excess just couldn't hold anymore. People didn't just lose interest in trend cycling, they couldn't afford it. Constantly replacing your wardrobe every few months stopped being realistic. And beyond the money, the vibe finally changed after this heavy consumerism age was replaced with another. Another that would end up becoming another heavy consumerism age, but you know what I mean. Flashy wealth signaling had been the default for most of the decade, and now it was out of touch. Rhinestones, loud logos, and outfits built entirely around flexing didn't hit the same when the economy was collapsing and everyone knew someone who was struggling. It was just tone deaf. So fashion started to slow down. Colors became a lot more muted compared to the early chaos of the 2000s. It was a far cry from that futuristic optimism of the Y2K. Outfits became more layered, not for spectacle, but for practicality.
More
importantly, fashion started to feel more personal than performative. Instead of chasing whatever celebrities were wearing that week, like I said, people started mixing things together. Thrifted pieces, older clothes, hand-me-downs, and leftovers from earlier trends all started coexisting in the same outfits. There wasn't one dominant look anymore, just a lot of people figuring it out as they went, which ironically enough would actually help birth a good few styles that became dominant for the youth and young adults of the late 2000s and early 2010s. Fashion stopped being about keeping up at all costs and started being something that you could opt into, reinterpret, or ignore altogether. Minimalism, normcore, and the idea that not standing out could be its own kind of statement. Looking back, 2000s fashion wasn't just about bad fits or wild trends, it was all about pace. Everything moved way too fast and everyone was too up every celebrity's butt. Trends were hot till they weren't, and if you wanted to commit to one, you just knew it was going to be a waste of money a few months later. The decade was defined by excess, celebrity worship, and a fast fashion machine that convinced people to constantly keep up. While it produced some iconic looks that we're still revisiting and bringing back to popularity to this day, it also left very little room for comfort, sustainability, or individuality to actually breathe. The recession forced people to slow down, rethink consumption, and get creative with what they already had. So when people look back at the 2000s with nostalgia, it's worth remembering that as fun and chaotic as it was also a total mess in many ways. The forced conformity and fast burn excess of that era is one piece that we're probably all happy to leave behind. So what did you think of 2000s fashion? Were you around for any of these eras?
No.
What was your favorite?
I was born in 2006. Like, bro, I wish I was, though. Shit. If I was, I would have been fat broke. Like, on G's. On G's. I wonder how much, like, a little boo-boo costs. A little boo-boo? No, not a little boo-boo, but a Sean John cost back in, like, 2004. A t-shirt. Cause that shit is not buying now. Shit.